Oke, perkenalkan saya Muhammad Mahdi sebagai Azure Spesialis di Inovantik dan juga sebagai moderator di webinar pagi ini. Jadi yang seperti kita ketahui bahwa webinar pagi ini akan membahas mengenai praktik terbaik perlindungan informasi dan privasi. Yang seperti kita ketahui bahwa di era sekarang cyber security threat itu sudah terjadi di mana-mana dan jika kita tidak melakukan mitigasi dan pembenahan di dalam sisi infrastruktur kita, maka itu akan menjadi PR buat kita bersama. Nah, saya rasa tema hari ini sangat membantu untuk teman-teman dan customer lain untuk melihat bagaimana Novantik bisa menawarkan solusi yang ada. Oke, berikut adalah tata tertib yang bisa kita laksanakan sama-sama. Jadi setiap peserta mohon dilakukan mute ya, agar suara dari belakang tidak terdengar dan kita bisa mendengar paparan tema ini cukup jelas. Dan juga nanti jika ada pertanyaan, silakan dituliskan di kolom chat dan kita akan recap dari pertanyaan tersebut dan kita akan bahas kita jawab. Lalu jika ibu-ibu dan bapak-bapak ingin mendapatkan penjelasan lebih jauh mengenai penawaran-penawaran yang kita berikan nanti, itu silakan diisi formulir umpan baliknya atau feedback form yang akan tersedia, dan juga sesi ini akan direkam dan akan ditawarkan kepada peserta yang ingin mendapatkan rekaman tersebut. Oke, berikut adalah agenda yang akan kita jalankan sama-sama. Yang pertama itu kata pembuka. Nanti saya akan mencoba memperkenalkan Novantik dan juga lalu masuk kepada inti diskusi pagi ini, perlindungan informasi dan privasi, praktik terbaik dan penawaran dari Novantik yang akan di-lead oleh Yui ya, dari Compliance Security Specialist Novantik. Lalu tanya jawab dan closing. Oke, kita mulai dari Novantik ya. Jadi seperti yang kita ketahui bahwa Novantik adalah global leader di digital transformasi. Jadi kalau tadi kita melihat di video yang sudah kita lihat bersama-sama bahwa Novantik itu berada di London headquarter-nya ya, dan memiliki 60 kantor cabang di seluruh dunia. Dan juga kita sudah memiliki pengalaman di IT market tuh selama 30 tahun. Dalam melakukan digital transformasi tersebut, kita disupport oleh 11 delivery centers ya, yang berjalan 24 jam selama seminggu, dan juga dibantu oleh hampir 6.000 karyawan di seluruh dunia. Dan juga kita berkolaborasi dengan 100 top vendor yang ada di dunia, dan kita juga sudah berkolaborasi dengan customer B2B ya, untuk memberikan solusi dari Novantik yang bisa, service Novantik yang bisa kita berikan kepada mereka. Oke, dan juga dengan berbagai macam organisasi yang sudah kita bantu. Lalu untuk gross revenue-nya di tahun 2023 itu kita lihat sendiri di sini ada $1,6 billion untuk gross revenue-nya. Nah, bagaimana kita dapat membantu customers ya untuk mencapai lebih banyak dengan teknologi digital? Oke, jadi seperti yang tadi kita lihat bersama-sama bahwa Novantik itu bekerjasama dengan top vendor partner di seluruh dunia, gitu ya. Jadi ada Microsoft, kita bisa lihat di sini, terus Amazon, terus Google, Adobe, Dell, HP, atau IBM, dan lain-lain. Nah, dengan kita bekerjasama dengan vendor tersebut, kita juga yang tengah-tengah ini kita bisa lihat kita melakukan pemberian solusi dengan permasalahan-permasalahan customer yang kita jumpai dan kita berikan solusi. Contohnya di sini ada cloud ya, misalnya jika di satu customers ingin melakukan migrasi dari workload yang ada di on-prem dan pindah ke Azure, nah kita bisa bantu dari sisi migrasinya. Dan juga kalau misalnya pengadaan software, hardware, dan juga service. Jadi kalau misalnya ada satu customer juga ingin mendapatkan immediate service dari kita pun kita bisa melakukan hal itu. Nah, yang paling kanan ini adalah customer kita yang sudah kita lakukan bersama-sama. Nah, dari pemahaman tersebut kita melihat dari 5 pilar ya dalam melakukan digital transformasi ya. Jadi dari orangnya, gitu, teamwork, terus dari sisi kesiapan infrastrukturnya, dari sisi keamanan data dan infrastruktur, terus software apa, aplikasi apa yang kita akan gunakan, dan juga apakah kita mengadopsi teknologi terkini. Jadi kalau kita melihat dari teamwork yang ada sekarang ini, apakah sudah cukup bisa diandalkan dalam melakukan digital transformasi, dan kita akan pastikan bahwa teamwork Bapak itu bisa melakukan transform ya, dan kita bisa melakukan increase the productivity dari tembok tersebut. Lalu kalau kita melihat dari sisi infrastrukturnya, kita pastikan bahwa si infrastruktur tersebut cukup modernize ya, dari di on-prem maupun di cloud jika sudah berada di cloud. Dan seperti kita ketahui bahwa jika si infrastruktur tersebut kita bisa bilang nggak kompatibel, maka itu akan sulit untuk kita melakukan digital transformasi. Dan ini kita melakukan assessment di bagian infrastruktur tersebut untuk memastikan bahwa si infrastruktur tersebut sudah cukup ready jika kita akan melakukan digital transformasi bersama-sama. Dan jika tidak pun kita bisa membantu di area mana yang perlu kita lakukan pembenahan. Dan juga dari sisi security, kita pastikan infrastruktur dan data-data yang ada itu cukup secure ya. Itu pun kita bisa melakukan melakukan assessment. Kita akan bisa melihat postur security dari environment tersebut seperti apa, dan di area mana yang lemah yang bisa kita lakukan penambalan, dan dengan melakukan remediasi yang kita provide dari hasil assessment yang dilakukan oleh Praktik. Kita akan menggunakan base teknologi ya, seperti kalau Microsoft kita menggunakan Azure gitu ya. Dan juga kita mengadopsi teknologi terkini artificial intelligence ya, AI, untuk mengkonversi informasi-informasi yang ada menjadi right action. Jadi customer akan lebih cepat dalam melakukan pembuatan decision. Lalu masuk ke bahwa kita adalah leading Microsoft partner ya. Jadi kalau di sini kita ketahui bahwa Microsoft itu sangat kuat sekali di cloud-nya, dan juga kita sudah 25 tahun ya bekerjasama dengan Microsoft, dan kita memiliki hampir lebih 600 profesional yang sudah Microsoft certified. Dan juga kalau kita bisa lihat di sisi kanan tersebut, kita adalah Microsoft Partner of the Years dari 2021, 2022 hingga tahun ini. Nah, dari situ kita ada 13 advance spesialisasi ya, seperti yang saya katakan tadi, bahwa kita kuat di Azure. Jadi kalau misalnya ada dari customer sudah ada planning ingin melakukan migrasi ke cloud Azure, kita bisa bantu dari sisi assessment-nya hingga melakukan migrasi ke Azure. Hingga virtual desktop, dan juga kalau misalnya dari customer sudah mature dari sisi aplikasinya, ingin pindah ke app service atau AKS, Azure Kubernetes pun kita bisa bantu untuk melakukan hal itu, gitu. Yang lain juga kita bisa lakukan security assessment ya, jadi kita bisa lakukan assessment dari end to end di on-prem maupun yang ada di Azure. Itu kita pastikan bahwa security posture yang ada di customers environment itu cukup secure. Jadi akan terlihat di situ di bagian mana yang perlu dilakukan remediasi dan assessment tersebut mencakup apa namanya governance, terus penetrasi untuk aplikasi dan juga IAM-nya juga akan kita lihat dari sisi assessment tersebut. Dan yang terakhir adalah modern workplace dan business apps. Jadi kalau misalnya customer kita itu sudah membeli produk Microsoft seperti Office 365, kita juga bisa memastikan bahwa produk-produk tersebut sudah digunakan secara optimum. Jadi kalau belum, kita bisa akan bantu dari sisi peningkatan produktivitasnya mungkin dengan cara webinar atau kita bisa lakukan apa namanya sesi workshop ya. For example, cara penggunaan tim, cara penggunaan Outlook dan lain-lain itu bisa kita lakukan bersama-sama dengan Noventic. Dan juga kita masuk bahwa di sini seperti yang kita ketahui, Noventic dan Netwan Asia telah membentuk kemitraan strategis untuk transformasi digital, strategi ICT, dan keamanan cyber. Dan juga kita ketahui bahwa Netwan Asia khususnya dalam solusi platform informasi inovatif memiliki wawasan ya, pengalaman dan keahlian yang telah terbukti mengatasi isu-isu inti dari perspektif pelanggan atau menyediakan layanan konsultasi yang solid dalam keahlian penilaian struktur, desain, dan berikut implementasinya. Netwan Asia juga terdapat di beberapa negara seperti Singapura, Malaysia, dan Indonesia. Lalu Netwan Asia bekerjasama dengan bisnis-bisnis di berbagai industri ya, mempromosikan pemanfaatan informasi strategis melalui infrastruktur ICT, virtual dan menambah nilai pada operasi mereka gitu ya. Nah, jika bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu ingin mendapatkan lebih jauh tentang tadi yang kita paparkan, silakan bisa kunjungi ke website kita ya, noventic.id atau bisa telepon ke nomor kita ya di 0215088674 atau simply bisa kirim email ke indonesia@noventic.com. Oke, kita masuk ke ini perlindungan informasi yang akan di-lead oleh Mr. Diu. Oke, Mr. Diu, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Matty, for introducing me. Okay, good morning, everyone. So today we will talk about how we can secure our data, because data is like the treasure for each company. We have to protect the data because it includes many sensitive data inside. For example, we have the salary for the employee, or maybe we have the strategy for any further upcoming plan for our company, right? So whenever we click the data from the employee, maybe or from the hacker, so we have to deal with the regulation and also all the stuff that we potentially been leaked by anyone. So that's why we have to do the way so that we can secure and we can control all the data inside our organization. So that's the purpose of this webinar today. And to go around, so I will give some introduction about the Noventic, which Mati already included. So in here, so we have the Microsoft Singapore and APAC for the Partner of the Year from 2023. So this is a huge honor for us to focus on Microsoft security and the Microsoft solution in general. And also it shows that we have the capability to deliver and to get the success story for our customer. So let's go straight to the data protection. So what's the challenges when we talk about that one, and what solutions that we can offer? So as you can see here, So this is the information revelation continue to accelerate. So as you can see here, so from the past, right, we always talk about how we can protect the data. So what's the data? Data here means that we have documents, we have records, we have emails, and yeah, so that's just some data that we have to deal from the past. But from now, so you can see here, so there are 175 zettabytes by 2025. So we go into this one Z era, which means that the data is really huge. And not only just documents, emails, and records, we have more about cloud solution, for example, the SaaS apps here. And also we have to deal with the collaboration with the customer, our partner, the vendor, and so on. And moreover, when you talk about for example, the marketing department, right, you have to go to the public social media to react, to post, to recruit the employee. So overall, the data is really like accelerating a lot. And if we don't have any solution to control that from now, in the future, maybe it's maybe bigger, and we don't have any way to control that one. And also, I want to talk about the data regulation as well, because if we work in the Indonesia, so if we only work in the local, so that's fine. So we just only comply with the Indonesian regulation. But if we work in the multi companies, for example, we work in many countries in Asia or maybe in the Europe or in the USA. So we have to deal with more regulations from the data protection. So for example, in the Europe, we have the GDPR in here. So general data protection regulation. So I think it's really popular. It's really common for those who work in from the compliance manager or compliance specialist, right? So it's like the compulsory for every company when we talk about how we can deal the data in the Europe. So I think there's a case in a few months ago for Facebook, right? So they make a fine of 1.4 billion dollars because Facebook like illegally transfer the data from the European to the USA. So that's why we have to control all the regulations when we talk about one or just two or many regulations around the world. So that's why the information protection is like we put into the metric for every data that coming in and outside of our organization. So that's why in here in this slide, I have a layer for you so that you can illustrate clearly about that one. So of course that the most important thing is the critical application and data in here. So I think it's the most valuable thing that we have to do. So in here, so of course, because it's really important, so we have the stronger control for that one. So we have the encryption. For example, we have the accept permission. So narrow down the users, the employees who can access to this critical data. And also it's really good that your company have the automatic classification. So in case that if your employee, they forget to do something or they forget to protect the data, right? So the system can do it by themselves. So it's really good that we have this one to automatically classify the data and protect the data. So that about the confidential data. So we'll look more on the environment. So this is for all the employees, for all the company. So we will have this one, data loss prevention. So that when this data is trying to go outside, so we have the data loss prevention or DLP for short. So that we have the DLP policy to control and to allow or to block this action when this like the action is not really like verified by our company. So this one we also have this one. So it's really good that we can control that one. And also because we just not only work inside our organization, we have partner, we have suppliers, we have vendors, we have customer. So we not just only keep the data inside our organization. There's many cases that we have to communicate, we have to collaborate with the partners, right? So also we can still secure our data. So when we go to here, so we must have a policy on a rules so that when this data is go to the partners, so only the partner can see the data. So not everyone can see that one. So that's why we have to keep control of this layer from the most important one, the critical data, to the outside. So in the outside, so we also have the way to control that one. And let's go to the information protection and governance strategy. So in here, so you can see, so we have 4 stages in here. So many customers, when they come to Noventic, they ask us like they want to implement the data loss prevention solution, or maybe they want to control and they want to block all the actions. They want to do anything that their data cannot be leaked outside of the organization. So that's good. They have the mindset to control and to protect the data. But you have to think about when you want to protect the data loss, right? If you don't have the way to consider or to remind that this data is sensitive or not. For example, so if you try to block all the actions, maybe there's one case that the recruitment process is coming and you cannot send that data to the applicator, right? Because you try to protect all the data. So you don't have any exclusion to determine that this data is public and you can send out to your company. So that's why the most important thing that I want to show out here is know your data. You have to understand your data. You have to know which location is your data stored. And also, is your data public for any case. For example, like I mentioned before, for marketing team or for the recruitment process. But for something like employment information or the strategy, the plan for the company, so this definitely a sensitive or confidential data. So we have to determine a data schema so that we can understand when we look at that data, so we can understand that this severities belong to which one. So when we have that classification, so we can go to the next stage is protect the data. So why do we have to do this one in the second stage? So for example, in the data loss prevention, of course that you cannot control 100% of your data. There will be some cases that your employee knows your vulnerability of the policy, so they can leak the data outside, right? If we have the data protection in here, so for example, the data encryption, right? So even the data intentionally try to leak out, but because we have the data protection, so even the external users, they cannot open or they cannot use that data because it's already encrypted, right? So it's really important that we have this one in the second stage to protect the data, even if there's any case that the data is leaking out, so we can still protect that one. So go to the third one is data loss prevention. So data loss prevention is not just about block all the actions. So we will try to do some conditions. So if that data is something like public, so we can send out to the outsider. Or maybe, for example, so this partner is trusted from our company. So we can believe to give that information to that partners. And the rest of them, so it's blocked, right? So we have to do with the conditions and we have to do with the verification so that we can understand and we can effectively work on the data loss prevention. And final thing is govern your data. So for example, this employee, they only work for our company in 3 days more, and they try to delete all your document sensitive informations. So we can, the IT admins, they can go to that data and they can govern and retain that one. So it's really good that we can consider that case as well. And when we look at this one, so that's why I tell you that these all of the strategy and also the information protection is all about the technologies, right? Technology is really good because it has the way for our company to control the data. But like I want to like emphasize that technology is just like the way to support you. They not the main reason for us to build an information protection and governance practice. So as you can see here, so we do have the technologies, right? Not only Microsoft, not only for other vendors. I think every technology can control or do have the advantage and disadvantage. As you can see here in the technology, we have the labeling architecture, we have the data loss prevention, we have the record management, so many things that the technology can offer you. But because the difficulty of the data protection is that it also includes this one, advisory law and legal. Like I mentioned before, we have to comply with the regulation, which means that we not only just encrypt the data and that's it. We have to do some way so that we can make sure that your regulation is already complying with the industry. We have the label taxonomy, we have the chain development, and we have the retention requirements as well. And the most important thing is the regulation requirements. And moreover, we also have the managed service in here. So there's an incident happens inside your organization. So you must have the way to recover that one, to investigate and to point out which action or which actor have that incident. So as you can see here, so overall, it's not about technology. It also has the people. You have to involve the employee to process together with your IT team. And also for the process as well. So you must have the process so that you can have the way to control for each stage of the data lifecycle. So it's really important that we have to keep that in mind. And in overall, so we're talking about how we can secure from the attackers, right? So the attacker, they try to send the mail phishing, or they have to try to brute force the the system, right? The identity. So it's all about the attackers, the external threat. But have you wonder about the insider risk as well? Because the most advantages of the users, your employees, that they have the company's account, which means they have the full control of your data. So it's different from the hackers because the hackers, they have to try to go to the account and they try to compromise that one before they can have the permission to go around with your system. The employee, they have full control. So that's why if there's a really bad employee, they try to leak the information to the outsiders. So that's really a lot for us to do the internal risk in here. So we have the Microsoft Information Protection in here. We also have the data loss prevention in here to prevent any leak from the data. So that's why it's from the next slide that I will just show you. So in here, so we have the Microsoft Purview Information Protection. So this is a solution from Microsoft to protect the data from your company. So in here, so like I mentioned before, the most important thing is that you must classify your data. You must know which data is confidential, which data is internal, which data can be published to the external users. So that's why we have the data classification in here. So when you use, for example, the sensitive info types here, you can define. So maybe this piece of information here is belongs to the credit card numbers, for example, or maybe this one is from the Indonesian ID number, or maybe your phone number as well. So you can define that one and put into this sensitive information types. So when you go to the document and you can detect this one has that information, so you can automatically put that in control. And moreover, you can do that one for the DOB as well. So for example, in your email, you have that one. You have this piece of information for credit card numbers. So you can tell the DOB policy to block the action from sending outside of your organization. So this is all about the sensitive information types. Moreover, we also have the trainable classifier, which is the AI information types. For example, you deal with the finance documents. So instead of just defining so many keywords lists or the regulation expression. right? So you can use the trainable classifier. So this already defined by Microsoft, and you can go here and just one click, and every single finance documents, so it can be automatically classified. And also for example, for the developer, right? So they try to send a bunch of programming language code to the outsider by using Outlook. So we can also detect that by using the TOP policy as well. And going to next one is the sensitivity labels. So in here, so if we have the data classification, so it's really easy that we can do this as well. So it's a template, label template that you can choose and attach to your document or your email. For example, so this data is internal, right? So you can attach the confidential one to your document. So maybe so this one is public and you want to send out to the external users, you can choose the public one. So because it's a the of Microsoft solution, right? So it's native for your Office 365, which means that you don't need to install anything from the end users. So you just need to enable this feature from your admin portal, and then in the end user point of view, they can see your label inside the application, the Office 365 application. So it's really good that we don't need to put so much effort to install any agent or any tool for the users. And the most important thing, we not just only encrypt the data, like I mentioned before. So overall, many information protection solution, they just try to encrypt the important data and that's it. So in here, Microsoft has the rights management service so that you can narrow down more, not only just block the permission, block the access. So you can allow that person to go to this document, for example, for the Excel file. But because maybe they are from a like different department, or maybe he's not a managers. He's just a normal employee. So he only has the read permission. So he just go to the document, he just view the documents. So he cannot like copy, they cannot edit, or even he cannot print the document. So that's the prime management service, and it go directly with the Microsoft accounts. So it will check the credential of the account, and then you can control that one. So it's really good that we can combine with the Microsoft identity with the right management service. And moreover, so we also have the on-premises control. That's why, for example, you have the file server or you have the SharePoint servers, right? So you can deploy this sensitivity label to your on-premise file storage. So it's really good that you can consider more to extend around your company system, not only just some general document. And in here, not only we repose the content labels, so this one is for example, Office application, for Power BI reports, we also have the container labels. So container labels means that we can apply the label protection for SharePoint, for Teams, and for Microsoft 365 groups. So we can do what we can do for these container labels. So we can control the access management, right? So we can go to that sample site, for example, and then we will tell the site to narrow down the access. So we only allow some departments or maybe for the whole internal users to communicate with each other in this sample site. But we don't allow the documents to send outside of our organization. So we can apply the container for this label as well. Okay, so go to the next slide. So you can see here, because it's a unified and built-in protection, which means that in every single platform that supports Office application, for example, for your Windows, of course, because it's from the Microsoft solution, Mac OS, iOS, iPadOS, and Android. So if your phone or your laptop can install the Office application, then you have the good eligible to install and to enable the sensitive information in here. So you can see, so for example, for the Excel, for the Outlook, and even for the mobile, so we can experience the sensitivity label into these platforms. And then you can see, so this is the manual labeling. So it will show directly this button whenever your admin, your IT admin enable this feature. So the end user can see that button and they can choose the suitable label or suitable severity of the document. And like I mentioned before, it can go across all of the common platforms in your organization. And more powerful, if you if you want to allow the users to to try to put the recipient or the access by themselves. So we also have that one. So it's called user defined permission, which means that the permission is not come from the IT admin anymore. So it's come from the end users. So they can try to put the name of the recipient or the receiver that they want to have, and they also allow them to have the read permission or the change permission in here, so they can put the name or they can put the email address, even it's inside or outside of our organization. So that's the thing that I tell you before, that so we have to do the secure collaboration between our company and the partner or customers, because we cannot just send to the partner and maybe one day the partner will send to another one, right? So in this one, so we can put the partner's email address in here or in here, and then only that partner can see and can access to your document. No one else can do that one. So it's really good that we have this user defined permissions, so that the user can try to allow the permission by themselves. And moreover, so there are many employees, they have a mindset that, for example, so if you have the confidential label, right, but they want to send it to the outsiders, because when we direct the label to the public label, so we can send that to the outsider and they can access to your document. So we can have the business justification whenever the users try to direct the label. So we do have that box happens. So it will show to the end user and it will tell that you have to give us the reason why you want to direct the label. And then you can see here, so whenever the user put any justification into this one, so this justification will go directly to our company. And whenever there's an incident happens, so we can go to the audit and we can search for the incident and we can see that justification happens. So it's pretty good that we can control even for any action happens when they try to change the label to the lower label. And the last thing that I want to point out here is the feature of co-authoring in here. So if you think about when your document is already encrypted, right? So for example, like you have two employees, employee A and employee B. So they want to collaborate in a Microsoft Word in here. But because the document is already encrypted, so because of the encryption algorithm, so you cannot allow two or many edit on this document version. So that's why Microsoft think about how to enable the collaboration. So we've also improved the productivity. So we also allow them to edit from the real time, this one, right? So there are two people opening this document, but they can still edit for every single word in this application. So that's the feature of co-authoring, allows the encrypted document to be edited by any users that have the permission to go to that one. So it's really good that we can also enable the productivity, so we don't interrupt any action from the employee to work. And also when we talk about the office application, so we also have the extension that's really popular in the company, that is the PDF file. So we also try to protect the PDF files whenever the users, for example, this one is the Microsoft Word, right? So they will have that label already attached to this document. But I try to export this document to the PDF file. So the encryption and also the permission and the protection from this document will be go directly to the PDF file in here. So we try to protect the PDF document whenever the users try to export to the PDF version. So that's really good that we have the full capability and the full protection for the data lifecycle. Okay, going to the next one is the Microsoft Purview data loss prevention. So uh, before I talk about the Microsoft information protection, which means that we try to protect the data it by using the encryption, the access permission, and so on. So in here, so that's when we put an action for any sensitive information trying to go to the outsider. So here, of course, we will support the Microsoft 365. And this one, we confidently say that the Microsoft can utilize for all the cloud solution in here. For example, for Office, SharePoint, OneDrive, or even Microsoft Teams. And also, we also support for the endpoint here. For example, for Google Chrome or the Microsoft Edge browser, even for the Mac OS platform. And also we already enable the non-Microsoft applications. So if your company using the Defender for Cloud Apps, so you can integrate the Cloud App solution with the Microsoft solution as well. For example, in here you can see the Salesforce, Dropbox, Google, or Box. You can integrate to this data loss prevention. And finally, for the on-premise, so if there's a case that the employees try to leak the data from the on-premise service like file server, so we can also enable this one as well. So this one is an example of the Exchange Online DOB. So Exchange Online DOB is like when you try to send the message, contain the sensitive information, or maybe you attach a file that contains a sensitive information. So there's many scenarios that we can talk about. But in this case, so we will have this gmail.com. So this is the maybe the personal account, maybe it's a external account, but overall this is a recipient that is not allowed to read this email because as you can see here, so this one has the label in here. So this label is only about for only allow the internal users to access to that email. But we have the external user here. So the symbol warning in here will show that your email message conflicts with the policy to your organization. But because it's just a simple warning, right? So they can click on send anyway, and they can send to that outsider. So we will go to the second stage. We also implement a simple block. So it just simply show you that your email message conflicts with a policy in your organization, and there's no way that you can send this email until you remove this gmail.com. Okay, so going to the third scenario. So we have the block with acknowledge and send, which means that you have to click on this button here so that you acknowledge that you try to send an email to the outsider and any incident happen in the future. So you will take the responsibility to that incident. So if they acknowledge this one, so they can click on this one and click confirm and send. And the fourth one is block with justify and send, which mean like it's the same with the user defined permission that I showed you before. So you have to give the justification. Why do you want this user can see your email? So you put this justification here, and the IT admin can receive that justification. And the last one, so we will combine two last solution together. The first one is acknowledgement, and the second one is justification. So you put the business justification here, and then you will click on acknowledgement so that you can send this email. So that's a simple scenario that we can work on the Outlook. So we can have more. For example, if when when you try to attach a label, right, the public label, so which means that you can send to anyone. But when you attach a document that includes a credit card numbers, so the Outlook can automatically detect the content from the Outlook email, and then it will block your action because you include a sensitive information inside your email. So it's really good that we will have really many scenarios that you can work around to narrow down the action from the users. Okay, so moving on to the one try and SharePoint DB. So this one we can understand the case that I show in this slide is that I try to upload a public document. So which means that I will attach a public label into that document and I will upload to the SharePoint site in here. But because in my public document I contain a sensitive information, this one is a credit card numbers, a bunch of credit card numbers. And in the state, the SharePoint will detect the content of this one and it will show a icon in here, and I cannot send this document to the outsider. Even this one is a public document. So for the internal, you can see, so we don't have this icon because this one doesn't have any sensitive information inside this document. So that's why we can implement the OneDrive Support DB to automatically detect the content from that document, and we can reduce the access and also the sharing from users. Okay, so all around these are the technologies that we can do for our company if we are using the Microsoft Purview solution. But because, like I mentioned before, I emphasize that technology is not the way that it can support you. You have to do with the process. You have the incident management, and also you have the process to approve or to decline any action from the employees. And also for your people, for your employee, you have to make sure that your employee have the mindset and the awareness so that you can control that one from the end user point of view. So that's why we go to the next one. So what we can do, where do we start for the data protection journey? So this one is the information protection queue chain. And as you noted, so we don't only have the information protection and data loss prevention. We do have the access management in here because, like I mentioned before, the users, your employees, has a full capabilities of dealing with your data. So if the hacker, they can go to your account so that they can have the full control and they can get your data to the outsiders. So that's why we have to do with the access management first. The first one you can see here, so we will have, for example, allow the access for the component device. And we also have block download for any external network and bypass for internal network. So you can think about the case that your employee, they will use the Office 365 application in their personal laptop, and they will use the most of your company account to sign in, and they can go to the SharePoint and they can download many files to their personal laptop. So we can control this one. So we just only allow the corporate device to download or to edit the document. If they use the personal laptop, so we just allow them to view the content. We don't allow them to download to edit the content. So we have to control the asset management first, so that go to the next stage, information protection, and the last one, data loss prevention. So we will have full control of this one. So how to get started? So the first one, we will have the define label schema. So which means that we will define the know your data, which I mentioned before. We establish the label schema with parent and sub-labels. Which one is public, which one is internal, which one is confidential, right? And also the second one, publish label to the end user. So why do we need to publish the label and we allow them to manually label? their documents, because when they try to go to the Office application and they will try to choose the suitable application, suitable sensitivity, so they can understand that they have the mindset of doing this thing, and we can raise their awareness that they can protect the data. And the third one, label recommendation. So we also have the training. We also do the workshop for every employee to join, and so that they can understand what they can do for the label. And the last one is the automatic label. So we can run the automatically labeling so that everyone, when they have a mistake of doing the labeling, so the system can do it by themselves. Okay, so going to the last slide that I want to tell you is our service. So what do we offer to your customer, to this one? So we will have the Noventic information protection culture. So this one is a service from Noventic to offer to the customer that we have the way to keep you in control. So technology is just like a way to support you. We do support you for the data classification in here. So for this one, we will go each department to check and to make sure that there's any data that has the sensitivity, or maybe this data is located in your on-premise file server. So we will do all the information classification, and we will produce the information protection strategy for this department. And when this department is successful, so we will go to each department so that we can run also the same stage, but we will make sure that all the departments or all the business units in your organization can experience and can have the data classification and protection. Okay, so I think that's all from my slide. So maybe I will go through the Q&A session. And if anyone you have any question, for example, relating to the technologies, like I mentioned before, if I don't have a clear explanation, please add us so that we can explain more. Or maybe the our Noventic service, if you want to go with the Noventic service, so we do have a survey later so that you can sign in your information and we will go and consult with you. Thank you very much for your time today.
Oke, teman-teman sekalian, apakah ada pertanyaan? Bisa di dalam bahasa Inggris atau bahasa Indonesia, nanti akan saya translate ke dalam bahasa Inggris. Atau mungkin nanti jika ada pertanyaan, mungkin bisa dikirimkan melalui feedback form yang akan kita lihat di slide selanjutnya. Nah, mungkin bisa di sini, nanti bisa di-scan saja. Jika ada pertanyaan, nanti kita bisa follow up dari pertanyaan-pertanyaan yang ada. Oke, apakah ada pertanyaan atau... Nah, ada pertanyaan. There is some questions due on the chat. So they said that is the LP can detect the anomaly copying from one to move the data in a lot of amount of data.
Yes, the DB can support that one. So for example, that the user try to copy the data from their laptop to the USB, right? Or maybe for any browser, for example, for Google Drive or any cloud storage, not from the corporate. So we can block that one. And even they can use the application inside the laptop. For example, like Telegram, WhatsApp, instant messages. So we can still block that one if there's a sensitive data is coming outside of the organization. So we can do that
Ya,
one.
Pak. Ya, Pak Robi, betul kita bisa mendetek dari beberapa sumber, dari dari Google Drive, dari WhatsApp, dari yang lain. Jika pemindahan data dengan jumlah yang banyak, kita bisa deteksi dari situ. Ada pertanyaan lagi? Mungkin ada yang lagi ngetik. Mungkin bisa di open mic aja jika pertanyaannya panjang. Silakan di-unmute aja Pak Robi jika ingin berbicara. Oke, apakah masih ada pertanyaan? Atau nanti jika ada pertanyaan lagi bisa dilakukan pertanyaannya di umpan balik sini, silakan di-scan dan silakan ditanyakan pertanyaannya dan kita akan mencoba follow up pertanyaan-pertanyaan yang ada. Okay, I think we are finished, to conduct the webinar, so we can close the session. Is there anything that you want to add, Dwi? Anything? No? Oke dan terima kasih banyak semuanya atas partisipasinya. Mudah-mudahan webinar yang kita lakukan di hari ini bisa membantu teman-teman semua. Dan again, kalau ada pertanyaan silakan bisa dilakukan pemindaian di QR yang tadi yang diberikan. Oke, terima kasih semua. Selamat siang. Thank you very much everyone and have a good day. Bye-bye.